There comes a moment in every woman's life when heaven itself speaks with unmistakable clarity. Enough. Enough of shrinking to make others comfortable. Enough of carrying weights that were never assigned to you. Enough of dimming a light God Himself ignited. You were not created to live as a silent servant to the expectations of people. You were created to walk in purpose, authority, and divine identity. And sometimes stepping into that identity requires you to stop being the nice girl everyone has molded and become the powerful woman God intended. Because God never called you to be agreeable. He called you to be impactful. He never asked you to fit in. He appointed you to stand out. Niceness is about pleasing people. Purpose is about fulfilling destiny. And today, I want to awaken the part of you that has been hiding behind politeness, behind fear of rejection, behind the need to keep peace at the expense of your own calling. Heaven is issuing a command. Rise. Speak. Walk. Lead. And stop giving away your power to those who never honored it. This is not a call to become harsh. It is a call to become whole. Not a call to abandon love, but to abandon limitation. Not a call to be rude, but to be rooted in who you truly are. Today we break the habit of being the nice girl and we embrace the courage of being the chosen woman. Identity must rise above people pleasing, because purpose cannot thrive in a heart that depends on the approval of others. When a woman shapes her identity around being liked, accepted, or tolerated, she unknowingly limits the capacity of her own potential. So many women walk through life apologizing for their own strength, because somewhere along the way they learned that their power was too loud, too much, too intimidating for those who preferred them silent. But your identity was never meant to be shaped by reactions. It was meant to be shaped by revelation. People-pleasing causes you to negotiate your value in every environment, adjusting who you are to match the expectations of others, shrinking your voice so no one feels threatened, diluting your gifts so no one feels insecure, minimizing your brilliance so no one feels overshadowed. But the truth is, when you live that way, you are not living at all. You are surviving. A woman who lives for approval becomes a prisoner of perception. She becomes a mirror reflecting what others want, instead of a vessel carrying what God placed in her. Every time you silence your truth to protect someone's comfort, a part of your identity gets buried. Every time you stay in spaces that dishonor you, just to avoid conflict, something inside you slowly dies. Every time you make yourself small to be accepted, you disconnect from the greatness within you. People-pleasing may feel safe, but it is the most dangerous form of self-betrayal, because it convinces you that peace comes from being passive. But real peace comes from being aligned with purpose, not from being agreeable. Identity must rise when you realize that no matter how much you give, you will never satisfy the expectations of everyone around you. Expectations change, opinions shift, loyalty wavers. And if your identity is attached to something that unstable, you will constantly live on emotional quicksand. You were not created to be tossed around by the tides of approval. You were created to stand firmly rooted in who God made you to be. People-pleasing is a trap that keeps you investing energy into relationships that drain you, environments that limit you, and responsibilities that were never assigned to you. It leads you into a cycle where your value is determined by how well you perform for others, how much you sacrifice your needs, how effortlessly you say yes, even when your soul is crying no. But identity is not built in performance, it is built in purpose. And purpose requires you to honor what God placed inside you, even when it disrupts the expectations of those who benefit from your silence. Identity rises when you begin to understand that your voice matters. Your thoughts matter. Your boundaries matter. Your dreams matter. You are not here to be defined by others. You are here to define the atmosphere around you. You must learn to stop equating being needed with being valued. You must learn to stop assuming that being quiet keeps the peace. You must learn that being agreeable in every situation is not humility, it is fear. Wearing the costume of kindness, the fear of disappointing someone, the fear of being judged, the fear of losing approval, the fear of being misunderstood. But fear cannot lead your life. Fear cannot shape your identity. Fear cannot be your decision maker. Because fear will always tell you to stay small, stay silent, stay safe, stay invisible. But destiny requires visibility. Calling requires courage. Assignment requires audacity. Identity rises when you realize that you are not responsible for how others feel about your purpose. You are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are not responsible for how others interpret your decisions. You are only responsible for being true to the calling God gave you. And that calling will not always make sense to those who want you to remain predictable. People-pleasing will demand you stay in the same emotional position forever, but identity calls you to evolve. People-pleasing will hold you hostage to old versions of yourself, but identity invites you into transformation. People-pleasing will keep you seeking permission, but identity gives you authority. Identity rises when you stop measuring your worth by who stays in your life and start measuring it by who you become. When you stop begging for acceptance and start walking in authenticity. When you stop apologizing for being strong, gifted, wise, discerning, or bold. When you stop allowing guilt to manipulate your decisions. When you stop letting others write the script of your life. When you stop being afraid to disappoint the expectations that were never aligned with your destiny. Identity rises when you stop asking, who will like me if I do this? And start asking, who will I become if I obey God in this moment? Identity rises when you understand that you cannot be both approved by everyone and aligned with heaven at the same time. Something must be sacrificed. And the woman who chooses purpose over popularity chooses freedom over fear. Identity must rise because the world needs the real you, not the version of you that has been shaped by pressure, culture, or emotional manipulation. The real you carries ideas, strategies, solutions, wisdom, strength, resilience, clarity, and vision. The real you is bold enough to set boundaries, wise enough to say no, courageous enough to walk away from what no longer serves your destiny. The real you is spiritually awake, emotionally stable, mentally strong, and unapologetically aligned with purpose. The real you is not intimidated by the disappointment of others because the real you knows that obedience is more powerful than approval. The real you understands that divine identity is not built in comfort zones. It is built in moments of courage, moments of confrontation, moments of surrender, moments of clarity. Identity rises when you choose to live for purpose rather than perception, for calling rather than comfort, for truth rather than acceptance, for destiny rather than approval. Identity must rise above people-pleasing because you cannot fulfill your assignment while shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. Purpose requires boundaries because anything with value must be protected, and anything unprotected becomes vulnerable to misuse. A woman who walks in purpose cannot afford to live without lines, limits, and standards because purpose is not sustained by enthusiasm alone. It is sustained by discipline. When your life begins to align with what God designed you to be, you will notice that not everyone can walk with you. Not every conversation can include you. Not every environment can hold you. And not every request deserves your yes. Boundaries are the invisible walls that guard the treasure within you. Without them, your time becomes scattered, your energy becomes drained, your focus becomes diluted, and your identity becomes shaped by demands rather than destiny. Purpose cannot survive in a life where everyone has access but no one has accountability. Many women lose themselves not because they lack calling, but because they lack boundaries to protect that calling. Purpose requires boundaries because your life is a garden, and no garden flourishes when anything is allowed to enter. You cannot grow strength in soil that is constantly being trampled on. You cannot grow clarity in a space where everyone feels entitled to your time. You cannot grow wisdom in conversations that drain your spirit. You cannot grow confidence in relationships that question your worth. When you allow everyone to cross the borders of your emotional, mental, and spiritual life, you end up carrying the weight of other people's expectations while abandoning your own assignment. Boundaries are not walls that keep you isolated. They are gates that keep you intentional. They filter what comes in and what goes out. They protect what God is building inside you. They keep you from giving all of yourself to environments that give nothing back. Purpose requires boundaries because without them you will constantly be pulled in directions that do not align with where you are going. There will always be people who want more from you than they are willing to give. There will always be individuals who benefit from your lack of boundaries because it means unrestricted access to your time, your energy, your compassion, and your strength. They will call you selfish when you establish limits. Not because you are wrong, but because your boundaries disrupt their comfort. But you must understand that destiny is too expensive to be negotiated with those who do not carry your burden or understand your assignment. You cannot allow guilt to override your purpose. You cannot allow pressure to redefine your priorities. Boundaries are the structure that protects your growth, your peace, your progress, and your calling. Purpose requires boundaries because your time is sacred. Every minute you spend in conversations that go nowhere is a minute stolen from your destiny. Every moment you invest in relationships that drain you is a moment taken away from relationships that nurture you. Every hour you spend fixing what others have broken in themselves is an hour taken from solving what God has placed in your hands. Purpose demands that you learn to say no without apology. Purpose demands that you guard your yes with wisdom. Purpose demands that you understand your capacity, your limits, and your priorities. Purpose demands that you stop treating your availability as proof of your goodness. Many women believe that being constantly accessible makes them loving, but in reality, it often makes them exhausted and ineffective. Boundaries allow you to give from a place of strength rather than depletion. Purpose requires boundaries because not everyone can handle the weight of who you are becoming. When God elevates you, He changes your circle. When God enlarges you, He reduces your distractions. When God sharpens your vision, He removes the noise around you. Some people cannot go with you because they do not grow with you. Some environments cannot hold you because they were meant for an older version of you. Some relationships cannot continue because your destiny requires a different level of stewardship. Boundaries are not rejections, they are refinements. They are the separation that prepares you for greater. They are the pruning that creates room for new fruit. They are the silent announcement that your life is shifting into divine alignment. Purpose requires boundaries because you must master what is within before you can manage what is beyond. You cannot lead others if you cannot first lead yourself. You cannot influence a generation if you cannot first protect your mind, your spirit, and your emotional health. Boundaries teach you self-governance, and self-governance is the foundation of authority. A woman without boundaries becomes a woman without direction. A woman without direction becomes a woman who is easily controlled. A woman who is easily controlled becomes a woman who loses her identity trying to satisfy the demands around her. But a woman with boundaries becomes unshakable, focused, intentional, and powerful. She is not led by emotions. She is led by purpose. She does not react to pressure. She responds to alignment. She does not live to please others. She lives to fulfill her assignment. Purpose requires boundaries because without them, you cannot steward the calling God placed on your life. Gifts require protection. Vision requires focus. Destiny requires discipline. You cannot cultivate what you constantly sacrifice for the comfort of others. You cannot grow what you constantly neglect to keep the peace. Boundaries teach people how to treat you, how to honor you, how to respect your presence, and how to value your contribution. They teach you how to preserve what God entrusted to you. They teach you that your life is worthy of protection, your soul worthy of rest, your dreams worthy of investment, and your purpose worthy of priority. Boundaries turn chaos into clarity, exhaustion into strength, noise into direction, and pressure into purpose. When you stand behind the boundaries God instructs you to build, you create space for growth, for wisdom, for healing, for elevation, for clarity, and for destiny to unfold without interference. Rejection is often divine protection because not every place you want to enter is designed to hold the weight of who you are becoming, and not every person you desire to walk with is equipped to handle the calling God placed on your life. Many times the doors you cry over were never built to support the destiny you carry, and the people you cling to were never assigned to the journey ahead of you. When God allows rejection, He is not diminishing your worth, He is redirecting your steps. He is removing you from what would have drained you, limited you, or broken you in ways that would have taken years to recover from. Rejection feels personal, but it is profoundly purposeful. It stings in the moment because your heart interprets it as loss, but heaven sees it as rescue. You are not being pushed out, you are being pulled higher. You are not being overlooked, you are being preserved. You are not being dismissed, you are being delivered. Rejection is often divine protection because there are relationships that look right emotionally, but are completely wrong spiritually. And if God allowed them to continue, they would suffocate your identity and confuse your direction. Sometimes God will let a person walk away not because they are evil, but because their presence in your next season would hinder your growth, distort your clarity, or block your purpose. You may have prayed for the relationship to work, for the friendship to stay, for the partnership to last, but God saw conversations you never heard, intentions you never discerned, motives you never recognized, and traps you never noticed. He saw the heartbreak that would have destroyed your confidence, the betrayal that would have shattered your trust, the delay that would have slowed your destiny, and the distraction that would have kept you stagnant. Rejection exposes what you could not see and protects what you could not guard. Rejection is often divine protection because sometimes you are asking God for opportunities that would shrink you instead of stretch you. You pray for platforms that cannot hold your voice, doors that cannot accommodate your assignment, and environments that cannot nurture your gift. And when those doors do not open, you assume something is wrong with you, when in reality, God is preserving your name, your anointing, and your future. There are rooms where your presence would be tolerated but never celebrated. There are positions where your ideas would be used but your identity ignored. There are places where your greatness would intimidate rather than inspire. And God, in His mercy, withholds access because He refuses to let you settle for less than what He designed you for. Rejection is not evidence of inadequacy. It is evidence of divine accuracy. Rejection is often divine protection because destiny cannot be fulfilled with everyone who starts with you. Some people are seasonal, not permanent. Some are awakeners, not companions. Some are lessons, not lifetimes. When you hold on to what God is trying to remove, you delay the arrival of what He is trying to give. You cannot occupy new spaces while clinging to old attachments. You cannot walk in your assignment while dragging relationships that drain your strength. You cannot step into purpose while remaining loyal to places God has evacuated. Rejection may feel like abandonment, but it is actually alignment. God is making space for the people who will honor your calling, the environments that will cultivate your gifts, and the opportunities that will expand your influence. Rejection is often divine protection because God sees the battles you were never meant to fight. He sees the emotional warfare behind the smile of someone you trust. He sees the pride hidden behind someone's admiration. He sees the envy behind someone's compliments. He sees the competition behind someone's support. And when He removes you from certain circles, your heart may break, but your spirit survives. You may cry over what walked away, but you will eventually rejoice over what did not destroy you. Sometimes rejection is God saying, if I let this stay in your life, it will sabotage what I am building in you. He shuts doors because He loves you too much to let you settle. He removes people because He values your future more than your feelings. He ends seasons because He knows that comfort is the enemy of calling. Rejection is often divine protection because your destiny requires clarity, and rejection clarifies intentions. It reveals who was with you out of convenience and who was with you out of conviction. It reveals who valued you and who used you. It reveals who celebrated you and who tolerated you. It reveals who saw your worth and who saw your benefit. Rejection uncovers the truth you were too loyal to confront. And once the truth is revealed, you are free. Free to choose differently, to love wisely, to walk boldly, and to move purposefully. Rejection is often divine protection because God is positioning you for something greater than your current perspective can comprehend. You may think you lost something meaningful, but what God is preparing exceeds what you imagined. You may think someone better will never come, but God is about to introduce you to relationships that honor your value. You may think another opportunity will not appear, but what God is about to open will not require you to compromise your identity to enter. You may think your best days are behind you, but rejection is the announcement that a new chapter is being written without the characters who cannot contribute to your story. Rejection is not the end. It is evidence that something new is beginning. Rejection is often divine protection because destiny requires separation, clarity, redirection, and elevation, and rejection accomplishes all four. You cannot rise while staying connected to what keeps you low. You cannot evolve while staying attached to what refuses to grow. You cannot ascend while holding hands with those who love you as long as you remain the lesser version of yourself. Rejection is the tool God uses to shift you, stretch you, strengthen you, and steer you toward the future He designed. What left you was not meant to stay. What closed was not meant to open. What ended was not meant to continue. Rejection is not the enemy of your purpose. It is the guardian of it. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because the world does not need a polite imitation of who you are. It needs the real you, fully expressed, unapologetically bold, and divinely aligned. Niceness is often a mask, a habit, a compromise to fit in or be accepted, but God never calls anyone to hide behind a mask. Niceness can be safe, predictable, and comfortable, but it is rarely powerful, effective, or destiny-driven. True elevation comes from being authentic, from speaking truth with courage, from acting with integrity, even when it causes discomfort, from living in alignment with purpose, even when it disrupts familiarity, and from honoring God's design in your life rather than bending to the expectations of others. People will appreciate a nice person, but history remembers the authentic, and God blesses the real. The moment you choose authenticity over niceness, you unlock a power that is invisible to those seeking temporary approval, but obvious to heaven and to the purposes assigned to you. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because destiny cannot thrive under the weight of pretense. A woman who is nice all the time may avoid confrontation, but she also avoids authority. She may maintain peace, but she sacrifices progress. She may be liked, but she is rarely respected. She may give generously, but she does not always give effectively. Authenticity requires courage, vulnerability, and self-awareness, and God honors the one who is willing to risk comfort for clarity, safety for significance, and approval for alignment. To walk in authenticity means to embrace your strengths without arrogance, your weaknesses without shame, your boundaries without guilt, and your convictions without compromise. It means understanding that your voice matters, your time matters, your presence matters, and your contribution matters, and refusing to shrink for the convenience of others. Niceness may make people comfortable, but authenticity transforms lives and shapes destinies. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because niceness can be conditional while authenticity is constant. Niceness is often performed. It can be faked, manipulated, or misunderstood. Authenticity is lived. It is grounded in truth, anchored in purpose, and expressed in integrity. A woman who relies on niceness to navigate life may gain temporary acceptance, but she will never gain permanent influence. She may please the crowd, but she cannot fulfill her calling. She may appear kind, but she may compromise her destiny to maintain appearances. God does not reward appearances. He rewards alignment. He does not bless pretense. He blesses truth. He does not elevate popularity. He elevates purpose. Elevation requires transparency, courage, and obedience, and these qualities cannot coexist with a life designed to be nice at all costs. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because authenticity honors identity. Every woman is uniquely designed, with gifts, talents, personality, and vision tailored for divine purposes. To cover your identity with niceness is to hide the instrument God crafted for impact. Niceness often comes with self-denial, compromise, and conformity, whereas authenticity celebrates individuality, speaks with authority, and stands firm against compromise. When you embrace authenticity, you embrace the fullness of who God created you to be. You acknowledge your uniqueness, trust your guidance, claim your authority, and pursue your calling without apology. Niceness follows rules dictated by fear, culture, or others. Expectations. Authenticity follows the instruction of heaven, the wisdom of experience, and the design of destiny. Elevation cannot occur in pretense, it can only occur in truth. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because authenticity inspires influence. The world respects women who are real, who speak honestly, who act decisively, and who live consistently with their principles. Niceness may attract temporary attention, but authenticity commands respect that lasts. People may like the nice girl, but they will follow the authentic woman. Leaders, mentors, innovators, and change makers are elevated not because they are polite, but because they are principled. The moment you embrace your true self, refuse to apologize for your convictions, and refuse to dim your light for the comfort of others, you step into influence that cannot be bought, borrowed, or forced. Your authenticity becomes your platform, your voice becomes your authority, and your life becomes your testimony. God elevates authenticity, not niceness, because heaven seeks alignment, not compliance. Compliance may earn temporary acceptance, but it cannot unlock eternal destiny. Niceness says yes when you should say no, conforms when you should stand, and compromises when you should protect. Authenticity chooses alignment with God over approval from people. It chooses purpose over popularity. It chooses truth over tradition. When tradition obscures divine intent, elevation comes when you honor the instruction of heaven, not the approval of the crowd. God raises those who are honest about who they are, faithful in their assignments, courageous in their decisions, and unwavering in their principles. Niceness may make life easy, but authenticity makes life significant. Niceness may reduce conflict, but authenticity creates legacy. Niceness may please people, but authenticity pleases God. And God's elevation always surpasses human approval, because heaven's standards are higher than earthly. expectations, and his plans are far greater than human opinion